I was listening to a particularly good talk by my friend last night on health, and a bit more than health and full happiness and so on, but you know, the obvious departments, the right food, the right exercise, the right company. Well, under the right environment, I'd like to add the right clothing, a natural fibre like cotton. Apparently silk's good. Got a feeling silk's made in a very unhappy way. I don't think I could take to wearing silk unless I knew that the creatures weren't misused in some sense that spin it. Silkworm, is it called? I don't know enough about it, but anyway. I'll stick with cotton and wool, you know? Wool in cold climates, cotton in warm ones. Cotton bedding or linen. It's a natural fibre, isn't it? Is linen from a plant like cotton is? I think it is, isn't it? Or is it a definite way of treating the cotton? I'm not sure. But generally I would hold with fibres that hadn't been artificially treated with chemicals, of course. Or even heat or whatever they might do, you know. As natural as possible, put it that way. A bit like, you know, organic, I think, is a good way of farming compared to industrial farming, if it comes to growing fruit and so on. I was reminded by her in the talk of the importance of sunlight, and the view in particular that we are recharging what I see it as the etheric energy body. Is it energy? Yeah, I think so. The energy body of the physical body, that it needs this aura of not just our other bodies, but an energy level, which is believed to linger after the body dies, so that you know, a ghost could be simply an appearance of, at a sort of energy level of the person who's died, and the physical body is no longer active, but the energy level is, and it gets sort of dismembered and hangs around for a while. Maybe why in the Maori culture here in New Zealand, I don't know, but maybe the case that's why they have an unveiling ceremony of the deceased a year later. Not something that I was familiar with in English culture, but it's quite normal in Maori culture to, it's very important. It almost, I think, lets the soul be released. That's a long time. I mean, I think the Buddhist view is it only takes about 3 days for the soul to be released, if you like. The rest of the bodies, I'm not quite sure how the Buddhist is conceiving of the person without the physical body, but the release comes at least within a few days. It could hang around in the physical environment, this etheric double, if you like, until it's dissipated, the energy is dissipated back into something of that sort of explanation. Coming back to sunlight, I think it's recharging the body with energy, just as the food we put in is used to recharge it with energy. You know, if you're going to drink water, make sure it's clean and pure. Sure, it could have the essential minerals in, but not much good unless they're in the form that the body can absorb, of course. Some of your biological food is in that form, of course. It's in a form that the stomach can digest and the body can take on. There's no point in eating nails because swallowing nails because you need a bit more of an iron supplement, that's not going to do it. Probably take you to the next world rather faster, but you'll have to come back again. Another point I'd like to raise is thinking of my talks just before this one, recordings just before this one. The language we use is all very mixed and varied, isn't it? And we tend to think of you're either in the physical or you've gone to heaven or something bad or something interim. And the theosophical view, of course, is far more, and the Eastern view is far more complex than that, on the karma type understanding of things. Karma theory is quite complex and involved then, as my recordings just before this are referring to. The last 3 or 4 recordings. Some view is rather simpler than the complex one I've gone into. It's simply here or in heaven. The sort of Christian view is here, heaven or hell. That's not a good domain to be in, apparently. The Buddhist view is that there are several. There are 3 hell levels below us and 3 heaven levels above us. We're halfway up, so to speak, the one we're in, with 3 below us and 3 above. The Hindu view is really that we're experiencing all 7 levels, more or less. We're experiencing them and building them simultaneously, which is more like the view I've been dwelling on prior to this. Look, when all's said and done, a lot more is said than done. What really matters? Wanting to trust God as your dad, your heavenly dad. Understanding of the rest pales in significance compared to that. And what use is the knowledge without understanding of how to get there, the way? My understanding is the simplest way is practice thankfulness. Practice whatsoever is good and lovely, think on these things. And where should that likely lead you? To love that which you appreciate and value. That is to extend your ego to embrace other than your narrow view of self at the present. That's building on the nirvanic heavenly plane as I see it. The plane of love and fellowship, idealized by the view of the ideal family, host of heaven, God's family. More than that does one need to know, because the practice of such view will give all the answers that you need as you go along. As you take on the view that God is Dad, loves me, well, much of the fear has gone out of life, hasn't it? And much hope has come in, much joy and so on. You're moving in the right direction at I was almost going to say alarmingly fast pace. In trust and in experience. Quickly. Quite simply, you start to find the miraculous in your life. You're just bewildered at the blessing that you are experiencing. Being taught of the Holy Spirit, you see, you're not reliant on a world religion or a particular teacher or a particular view. you're open to such in that you're quite happy to listen to what their view is, but you don't have to accept it. And you don't. You know, even my close associates, they'll say something, and I'm thinking, oh, that doesn't sound like devotion to God, that's devotion to something less. I don't care how high this being is, it's God I'm devoted to. It's God that is my teacher. That's what I want, actually and conceptually and genuinely and fully. That's where my values are, at least now. That's the only way I'll find acceptable. I don't pray to anything less than God easily, no matter how much is told to be a representative of. I feel in faith I'm taught of the Holy Spirit, but that the Holy Spirit is God's Spirit in me, ultimately guiding me. In that sense, I follow the sort of Jesus story teaching that we've received the Comforter that speaks only of God. And anything that doesn't anything that elevates anything else, I'm suspicious of. And he doesn't elevate himself. He speaks only of God. Something of that. You may say, oh, it's got all sorts of flaws in it, this logic. Might have. But that's what I'm trusting at the minute. And I've found great benefit from doing so. So I'm not going to give that up at all lightly, am I? You see what I mean? There's a faithfulness in us, isn't there? What we might have referred to as integrity. My phone's just gone black on me, down to 5% charge. I think God's telling me you've said enough, Marshall, for goodness sake, stop. Thank you, Dad. Could I, though, just occurs to me, add that I do use colours too, not just the materials that affect us. The colour that you wear is important. I mean, just very briefly, white, gold, blue, very much on the good side, you know, light colours of green and so on. Lightness of colour too, not too strong and blatant and garish. They emphasise the different fields that your bodies are at, particularly taken with a book by Leadbeater. See if I can lay my hands on it. I can't. Well, there's been the same theme, similar theme with Rudolf Steiner, that the colour you're wearing is important. If you're walking around in blacks and browns and, you know, dark greys and very dark colours, you're emphasising the physical level, the physical body, and the negative side of any level, any body that you have, of the various bodies. Whereas if you're like in gold and white and light blues and you know those colours up there, what's the other colour? What I would call mauve, not purple, not too dark, lighter, you know, lighter mauve. It says something about something spiritual. I was wearing it's actually a sort of mauve violet colour, and white check, just the two colours. The overall appearance is a light mauve. I felt right in that. Now you may think this is crazy, but ladies more especially know that what they're wearing is affecting their magnetism, not just to others, but to themselves. It makes them somehow conscious of a certain, what one might refer to with the New Age people as magnetism, energy. Okay? That you find uplifting, and it's the magnetism, the life energies that we're living on, that we receive from food, sunlight, the right clothing helps, and what we're struggling with these days is perhaps Wi-Fi does not help. You know, too many electrical and radio magnetic forces around us, possibly not good. Some people complain of headaches and so forth, migraines, and other adverse conditions. Well, it's worth looking to in some sense, isn't it? If you're going to take a retreat and you take it in an area that's away from the pylons and away from deliberate transmission of Wi-Fi and, telephone pylons and so on, and electrical cables, and yeah. If it's best for a retreat, it's probably best for you normally if you could move towards it in some way. I don't know. But the colour you wear, worth being sensitive to such, perhaps. New Zealand's fascinated by wearing black clothing. Perhaps the modern world is. They feel it's smart and it's safe and it's doesn't show the marks. I was very cautious of men in dark suits because Dad wore a black suit basically to his London office job, manager of stockbrokers, and I associated it with dominance and not good, not loving and kind. Mum was colour, and a ball gown would have sequins all over it, and she used to make them herself. Very creative, my mum. And beautiful woman. And her face was colour, of course. Lipstick, eyeshadow, rouge. I don't mean overdone, incredibly good blend, but Hollywood style, as it was in the 50s and 60s. Probably 40s as well. Yes, colour. It's vibration again, isn't it? Choose the right vibration around you. The right music, the right words in your mouth, the right thoughts in your mind. Vibration is, I don't know if it's more fundamental than thoughts, or thoughts are more fundamental than vibration. I think it's that way round, actually, but yeah. Thank you, Dad.